Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. You guys are watching the episode 21 of The Health Show. I'm Asad Sultan Khan. And today, हमें join कर रहे हैं Bilal Chutani. Bilal is an amazing guy. He's an amazing character. He has a lot of experiences under his belt. And right now, currently, he's working at DHL Express as an HR talent specialist, and also at the ICS group of companies in Karachi. He's just about to join in about himself, what he's all about, and what happened along the way.
Is it better now?
You know, Bilal.
I'm super sorry for all the delays in connection. I hope that it's more better now.
Yeah, it's better, and don't worry about it. No, not a problem. You know, it happens with karate often. Like I see this happening often, so it's all okay. Let's begin. So,
Yeah.
first of all, Bilal, tell us about yourself. Tell us the whole story about Bilal. What is your inspiration? What is your job description right now? What have places have you worked in? And what did you like? Tell us every single thing about Bilal.
Okay. So continuing on what we were just speaking a while back. So knowing about Bilal, I think that if you want to know my professional side, if you know all these things, then you can always look at my LinkedIn. But what matters most is that who actually I'm from within. And as I mentioned that over the past few years, not even few years, for quite some time, I've always been exploring myself, looking at my strengths, my weaknesses. It's never an easy job. But I think that there are a lot of ways that you could truly find out by just giving time to yourself. So for me, Bilal is someone who loves to meet people, who loves to network, who loves to travel, who loves to cook, who loves to eat, and who just loves to keep himself busy. So in simple words, that's what Bilal is.
Great. And what is your job description right now?
Okay, so just correcting you, Asad, I used to work for DHL Express at the global head office, and I was working there as an HR talent specialist. So my job was basically to make sure to pick up the right talent from people and to hone them. So, for example, if I have an employee by the name of Asad, my job would be to find out what is Asad good at. Maybe he's good at healing people. So my job would be to make sure to take that skills and to hone them in so that Assad becomes the best healing person ever. So that's what I used to do. Yeah, but now
Oh,
after
that's great.
leaving DHL Express 6 months back, I'm back to Pakistan and I'm currently taking care of my father's business.
Oh, and what's the business all about?
My father's a jeweler in Pakistan, so he owns jewelry stores, and I think that he's at this part of his age where actually he wants to just transfer everything to his children. So here I am running the show.
That's great. That's great. All right, Bilal. So, my second question is, since you're in the health show, tell us about this. What do you think about health and wellness in today's society, especially outside Pakistan and inside Pakistan, the desi culture that we have?
Okay, so I think, to be very honest, Asad, health, specifically mental health, is super, super, super important. And I actually do not agree with people. I know how difficult it is for people to come out and talk about this particular topic, and still a taboo in Pakistan. But while I was living in Germany, before that I was living in Netherlands, I've seen people actually taking this matter super seriously. And as a person who's been through, I wouldn't say that I've been through the worst, but as a person who's been through extreme anxiety, extreme stress in life, I feel that there are times when you just have to sit down and think what you're going through, and just to find those triggers and find a healing point. It doesn't necessarily mean that you go to psychiatrists or you go to psychologists or things like this. It's all about, like, sitting and figuring out what's going on wrong and how to just completely solve that out. And right now, as I'm talking about mental health, I also feel that physical well-being is even more important because it directly or indirectly, in some cases, affects your mental well-being.
Great. So my next question is about this. You know, you've worked at Isaac, you've worked at DHL Express, you've worked at Alcott College, you've worked at ICIS group of companies, and now you're running the family business. What are the learnings that you have developed, especially? And then in the next question, we'll talk further about just Isaac, right? Well, how has that changed
Okay.
you? The thing that we were
Okay.
just talking about previously.
Okay, so I think that throughout my experience is wherever I've worked, the learning that I've developed is that you just need to be very much passionate about whatever you do. So, for example, whether I used to work for ISEC or DHL, I used to always choose a function where I would feel my passion lies. And that's something which I figured out for all my years in ISEC by meeting people, by talking to my supervisors, by taking all that motivation, because this is how, you find where you're best at. So for me, it's always about the learning is that do work wherever your passion lies, wherever you feel that you're going to enjoy the most. The second thing that I've learned is that just be honest with your work if you really want to get recognized. So today, when people tell me, okay, how did you manage to go to DHL headquarters all the way from Pakistan, where rarely people go? So my only answer was that I was very honest to whatever I used to do. So whether that's like working in ISEC or working in my father's business, I used to always make sure that I deliver my best results. And third thing which I would definitely want to mention is that since it's more like health associated, is that I used to always keep that in mind that my mental health is a priority. So and that's one of the learnings, because once I was settled in my mind, once I was settled in my brains, that's and only then I used to give my results. If my brain was aggressive, as if at the time when it was like, okay, it's not functioning properly, if I'm not doing the right things, then I used to mess everything up. So it's very important to practice some mindfulness and to keep yourself alert and to make sure that you're doing your meditation, your yoga. So it's a very important learning.
So, just to make it more practical and a practical approach to this, you talked about being the best at what you do, right? Whatever you used to do, be the best at it. How specifically could you be best at something, and especially consistently be best, right? You have to be consistent with what you do.
Yeah.
So how can somebody be best at what they do consistently over the time?
Okay, so I think that learning is super important with whatever you're doing. So, for example, if I was handling talent management at DHL Express GHO, I used to always make sure that I keep on learning. So, whether it's a new project that's coming up, whether it's a new course that's coming up, or whether my supervisor is taking training classes, I used to always put my feet into it, because I knew that, like, if I learn new things, I'd be able to speak well and I'd keep my efforts consistent. One more thing is that your motivation. People say that, like, that you could get motivated from externals, or yeah, definitely I agree that, like, if I would see someone who's more successful than I am, I would one day definitely aspire to be like that person. But on the other hand, I also think that motivation comes a lot from within yourself. And for me to be consistent, I used to always look forward to the next day. I used to always be, okay, kal kya rakha hai mere liye, or kal kya hoga, what would I be doing tomorrow, and how could I make my day better. So it's very important. I think that sometimes you feel कि ये सारी बातें जो है ना ख्याली बातें, and these things just come into your brain, but no, they actually work. You just need to sit back, relax, and think.
Great. Thank you so much for the insight, Bilal. My next question is about Isaac. So, tell us explicitly about your time at Isaac. How did it change you? How did you were just telling about, you were a person who has a lot of pride and, ego and all of that. And then you massively changed into a person who was very humble and, it's and very inspiring, to be honest. So, how did that happen? How did that shift happen? What did you learn out of Isaac? How did it change? How did it revamp the entire thing?
Okay. So apart from Isaac taking all of my hair away, I think that Isaac helped me in a lot more other ways. So when I joined Isaac, as I mentioned, that's super extrovert, super arrogant, not wanting to talk to anyone, having my own close group of friends. I think that how Isaac basically changed me was when I saw people from different walks of life. So a person coming from Karachi who's always studied in a British school, who's always been associated with a close group of friends, when I started seeing people from a completely different area from my city and how they interact, how they talk, how, their way of life is, or someone coming in from Islamabad and Lahore and how their way of life is, I realized that to me in life, there are many more things just than yourself. So when I started taking interest in all these people and their walks of life and everything, and that's how I learned this specific technique that I have, which is being a very good observer. And all my supervisors used to say, because there were times when I just used to take a seat back and observe on what people do, how they talk, how they walk, what are their ideas, what are their passions, and to me they were different because I had never interacted with such kind of people. So for me, just being with them and just like, taking their insights, getting to know their perceptions, that changed me. And then it was during ISEC that, like, for the first time, I had never decided to go on a train. I've never traveled in a train, but when I was a part of ISEC, when a close group of friends just started forcing me, Bilal, you need to be a part of this journey, and you need to go and train. And when I became a part of it, I started liking these things. I started sleeping on the floor. I started, you know, doing these kinds of things, and then I realized that there's much more to life than just your comfort zone, and that's how ISEC changed me.
Great, perfect.
And
So
I
could
would,
you like
I would
just
definitely like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go on.
yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, I just want to say that for me, Isaac was such a changing factor that if Isaac was a human, I would have been the first one to propose and get married to Isaac, and that's how I spent nearly 8 years in this organization, whether part of Isaac Pakistan, Isaac Germany, and made countless friends. Like I could see some people joining in who are really close to me when they were in Isaac, and even now. So yeah, that's how it is.
That is, I feel like what you just said is like the most beautiful part of it, the most beautiful part of Isaac, because it gives you friends not just for the time there. You develop friendships over the course of a lifetime. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't left Isaac right now, but I already know that the kind of friendships that I've made, they're gonna carry on. But the experience, the kind of experience that you have, 8 years into an organization is a lot. And then
Yeah.
having an international experience, having international friends, that is like the cherry on top, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that, Asad.
So just to like sum it up, just to like cap it all, give us like three basic learnings, the three basic journal learnings that you developed from Isaac.
So I think that the biggest learning would be with regards to networking, and I think that Isaac's network has helped me throughout my life wherever I am, whether in Germany, whether in Netherlands, wherever I am. So learning, I think, was the biggest. Sorry, networking was the biggest learning that I took out from Isaac. The second would be to know yourself. As I mentioned, that it's super important to know who you are as a person and what you want to do in life, your strengths, your weaknesses, your aspirations. And I think that while working in ISEC, we used to have so much time to reflect on ourselves that to knowing myself was super easy, and I took it as a learning. And third thing that I took out from ISEC was that your failures are never your failures; they're always your setbacks. So I think that I started taking my failures as setbacks, and wherever I used to like just drop in my life, it was super easy for me to get up because I used to never take that as a failure. I was used to take that as a learning material and as a setback. So I think that these three things were super important for me during my time in ISEC, and that's something which I'm taking with me.
This is just beautiful, Bilal, because I can totally relate with what you just said. My next question is the most exciting question of this show, and it's this: Bilal, if you had all the time, if you had all the energy, if you had all the money in this world to do anything to keep yourself healthy, what would you do?
Uh, I would buy a private island, live there for my entire life with lots of servants and people to take care of me. This is the only thing that I do. I think that that for me, sleeping, eating, and talking to people is the best pastime for me. So I think that that's the only thing that I do if I have all the money in the world. Alhamdulillah.
Perfect. This has been one of the most exciting answers to this question, by the way. All right. So
So yeah.
I'm gonna dive down into something very serious. I feel like it's something that's not talked about enough. I feel like it's not even talked about outside Pakistan itna zyada. But especially in Pakistan, the basic culture that we have, there's a lot of problems going on. Nobody talks about it, mental health. And even if they talk about it, I'm not just mentioning the fact, we need certified experts to talk about this. Even, just to raise awareness about mental health. Even when people talk about it, it's the problem that's been talked about. It's never the solution, that's talked about. Nobody shares a practical approach to, mental health. I want to know what's your take. What do you think about mental health?
Well, I think it's super serious. And not only the reason is that I've seen people go through it, but I've seen my close ones and I've seen my friends, my family, people going through different different issues within mental health. In Pakistan, definitely it's not as talked about. When you talk about going to a psychologist for counseling or for a therapy or whatever, people take it as a taboo, and they always label you as someone who's not normal or not sane or not in the perfect senses. But I think that it's an issue. Uh, Also, one more thing I believe is that, like, when you talk about mental health, it's not like, what I could see people doing is that they're, like, labeling mental health as, like, they're just pushing into people's face. That there are times when even if a person thinks that he's mentally normal, he would start thinking, oh no, there's something wrong with me. So I think that you should let the topic be a bit subtle, but at the same time, you should create more awareness about it. So I think that people should actually take this very seriously, and it's not necessary that you have to go through therapies, or maybe if you're suffering from anxiety, or it's not necessary for you to go just rush after therapies. You could definitely do it with medication, or you just walk out and you could start reading articles. There's so much information available these days on how you could handle these situations. I'm not saying that you don't go through a therapist. You go through a therapist when you really need one, but however it is, I think that mental health itself is super serious, and one should, like, make sure that he's perfectly sane and could keep a check on his mental health often.
Perfect. And like, because, I totally think that every single one of us, sometimes in our life, go through, mental health issues. And a
Yeah.
lot of times we just, ignore it. Some people go into denial. Some people don't even address it the right way. Some people just don't even know that it's a mental health issue, right? So just like, panic attacks, people don't panic attacks को लोग पहले जमाने में घबराहट कहते थे कि घबराहट हो रही है मुझे, and they didn't know what to do about it. Now alhamdulillah we know, we have a lot of information now, we know what to
Yeah.
do about it. Just like that, a lot of these mental health issues we don't even know about. We don't even know the difference between schizophrenia and paranoia,
Yeah.
mania, etc., right? So, and I feel like we need to build a culture where it's easy and where it's okay to talk about these things, where it's okay to know about these things and to share our journeys, right? Can you like share
Yeah.
any time where you had a major setback, where you had a major mental health issue, and how did you get out of it?
So I think that while I was in Germany, it was a day that I had just been married and I moved back for a while, and I was just at my home and I woke up one morning and I wasn't feeling good, and at that point I was feeling super down, super sad, upset. I don't know why, just because of the weather probably. I didn't know that there's a thing like weather anxiety as well, and that's what I feel that I had at that time. So I wasn't feeling at the best of my health, and at that time I had food poisoning, and I just happened to open Google and see, okay, so how could you, like, what are the symptoms of food poisoning, and how how severe could it be? And at one point I saw that food poisoning may also lead to death. So and I was all alone. So at that point of time, I was like, okay, so what should I be doing now? And I started just gathering my stuff, and I was rushing to a doctor. So while on my way to rushing to a doctor, I was sitting in my tram, and at a point I felt, okay, that I'm just going to fall back. And I had that kind of fainting feeling in front of me. I thought that there's no life in my legs, and I was just about to call the person next to me. By the time I reached, I realized that my blood pressure had extremely shot up, and I went through a series of panic attacks and all these kinds of things. And that was the first time that ever happened. And when I spoke to my doctor, he was just super calm, and he's like, "Okay, Bilal, so even if you thought that you faced a panic attack, it's fine. Whenever you're in such a situation, try to calm down, try to relax." The next 2-3 months were super severe for me because I was learning the art of staying calm. I was learning the art of being mindful. I was learning the art of deep breathing and all these things. But then, over the time period, I realized that, okay, this is something which can be with you throughout your life, or this is something which, because it's your brain. At the end of the day, even though how many people try to change it, you're the one who's controlling it. Like, there are times when if I want to dream something, I do it through my control. When I sleep at night, I think about things that I want to dream. So, like, that's how I thought that if this is my brain, I take control of it. And I can't let external triggers, just start a whole sort of anxiety for me. So I think that helped me a lot. And even after that, whenever I used to face, like, okay, I was super nervous on going through an interview or something like this, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. What worse? Is it killing me? Is it taking out my life? Is it taking the heart out of my soul? If it's not doing that, then fine. There's no harm. You should, like, you should start taking control. And that helped me a lot. So during different setbacks, whether it's your health, whether it's my work, whether it's my interview, or whether it's any sort of a nervous thing, I always tend to take control of my brains, and that helps me a lot.
Great, great. That has been a very beautiful insight, Bilal. My next question is a question that puts people into existential crisis, and I say this all the time. And that is this, Bilal. What has been your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn out of it?
I don't think that I have one failure. I have plenty of failures, but I think that I actually don't have like a big failure that I would cry off. But I think that yeah, one thing which I would definitely think that it's not a regret anymore. So I'm just making that clear. During my school years, I did want to study in Pakistan, and I applied to a university in Canada, a really good university. I made it through, but unfortunately, having traveled extensively even before I joined university, my visa got rejected. So I wouldn't call it as a failure. I would call it as a setback, and that thoroughly made me shake from top to bottom. That okay, so I have history and years of travel, and why wasn't I able to get a visa just for a just a university? But and that's when I decided to stay in Pakistan and join a university here and started studying and whatever. So I don't think that it, even though it was a very big setback, but it did not move me as a person. It was like, okay, fine, things like these happen, and the only learning that I took was that let's see what future holds for me. And now wherever I am, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I'm super satisfied, super happy, super successful. So I think that in one way or the other, that setback turned out to be a bonus or reward for me. If I would have been in Canada right now doing whatever that I would have done here, then I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have met so many people. I wouldn't have been talking to you properly. So I think that that was just a part of me where I had to just be patient and think that okay, let's see what future holds.
I strongly believe in this thing. I strongly believe in destiny. So, for example, you couldn't go to Canada if you could have been there. So, and I'll take my example. So, let's say I was applying somewhere, I couldn't get in. So maybe I couldn't go to Canada. और अगर मैं वहाँ चला जाता, maybe, just maybe, I strongly believe in this shit कि मैं वहाँ जाता and the next day I get hit by a truck on the road and I died. So, I strongly believe in that. So, something that didn't happen, which I was looking forward to in my life, it didn't happen, is probably the best thing that ever happened because, it made me who I am right now. And it made me, it gave me all the learnings and all the experiences that I had right now, that I have right now. I wouldn't have it the other way, just like you said. So I feel like it's really important because hota kya hai कि people start dwelling on that shit, whatever doesn't happen, and they start overthinking, and they start getting anxiety, they start having, they start getting depressed about that, कि, वो मेरे साथ वो नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ, I was so looking forward to this and that. And I feel like once you have this belief कि जो हुआ वो अच्छे के लिए हुआ, और अगर वो चीज हो जाती which you wanted, it could have happened, it could have been a massive, a shock to you afterwards.
For sure, yeah,
So
definitely agreed.
perfect. So my next question is, you've been living in Pakistan, you've been working in Pakistan, you've also worked outside, you've seen Germany and other places as well. Where do you see the future of Pakistan in the coming 5 years?
I think that Pakistan is land of opportunities and a land of potential, a land of extremely
Are you
talented
saying
people.
it's America?
No, not really. But I think that Pakistan has its own essence, and people like me, who, even though I have been born and bred in Pakistan, I have lived quite some time outside Pakistan, but at the same time, there has always been this longing which pulls me back to my country all the time. And even, I was having a very successful career. I was enjoying my life. I was in Germany. I had my PR. Everything was amazing. But then I gave everything up just to come back home. So I think that Pakistan for me is home. And for next 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, it will always be home. So I think that that's one thing which Pakistan keeps with itself, warmth and home. The second thing is that where I see 5 years from now, I have been seeing the past 10 years and 15, 20 years as totally the same. What I feel is that, of course, there will be a lot more awareness as compared to what it is right now. But I think that for Pakistan to change or for milestone changes, then that would take the next 20, 30 years. And you cannot see something within the next 5 years. So I would see that, yeah, definitely there would be changes, there would be more opportunities, there would be more potential, there would be more talent. Bringing up e-commerce, digitalization will play its role, but massive changes would take another 20, 30 years, or maybe 50 years, you never know, for that matter.
Great. Thank you for that, Bilal. My next question is related to health. And it is how, what do you do to keep yourself healthy? And what would you advise to all the listeners listening to you right now? Okay, how can they keep themselves healthy?
Physical health, I don't do anything, which is super bad. And ignore the child behind me because it's just someone with a child in my office.
It's a
But but physical health, I don't do anything. I just spoke to a gym instructor and asked him that okay, how much would I pay him to start my gymming and make sure that I lose 30 kgs within the next 20 days. So yeah, so physical health is the least priority for me at the moment. Although I feel it's super important, it affects your mental health in a lot of ways. As far as my mental health is concerned, I do a lot of things to keep myself sane. Apart from drinking stuff like, I would say teas, because I know chamomile teas and all these things do help you. I take mindfulness very seriously. I used to eat super fast, but now, even while I'm eating, I'm thinking so much, and I'm taking my time. Every bite that I take, I make sure that I try to understand what am I doing with that bite. So that helps me a lot. Drinking water, walking mindfully. Mindfulness is the best thing that you could do. The second thing that I do is dry breathing exercises and yoga. Not yoga to lose weight, but yoga to keep yourself sane, and breathing exercise. So I think that these three things combined keep me super sane.
great. Can you like shed some light on the breathing exercises? What actually what's the breathing exercise that you do and how it's done? Like how can people apply that as well?
Okay, so with the breathing exercise, I do 7-7-7. That is that you take 7 seconds to inhale, and then you take 7 seconds to hold your breath inside, and then you take the next 7 seconds to release. So I do this at least 10 times, 15 times a day. And what you do is that you just, maybe you could do sets, 5 sets at each point of time. But you make sure that while you're doing this, you don't think about anything else. So while I'm just inhaling, I'm just thinking, I could just feel like, I'm letting go of my brain, I'm letting go of my body. So that helps a lot to me. So 7-7-7 is the key breathing exercise that I do all the time. Even when I'm nervous, I'm panicked, or, I know that there's a situation coming that might trigger my anxiety. So I always do the 7-7-7.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And what's your approach to a practical approach to mindfulness? Like, what's that all about?
So I took the session in Germany with regards to mindfulness, and the only thing that I made out of this session is to to invest your time in whatever activity that you do. So when I say activity, I don't necessarily mean running on the road or jogging in the park. What I mean to do is that even while I'm talking to you, just try to be attentive. Just try to keep your focus associated to that particular being and not everywhere. So that's my take on mindfulness, that whatever actions you do, whatever activity you do, even if you're talking to a few people, you're drinking water, you just keep yourself well aware. You just keep your brains present at that moment of time and don't worry about your external surroundings. So that is what mindfulness is for me.
Perfect, brilliant. My next question is about self-awareness. I want to ask you that because I know you not that much, which I really want to know. But then again, I know you as a leader. I know you as an inspirational leader. How can somebody be more self-aware, in your opinion?
Um, as I mentioned in throughout my conversation, that in order to be more self-aware, it's very important to know yourself. And how would you do that is only and only if you start giving yourself time. So an hour a day, you have 24 hours, maybe just an hour a day before sleeping. Take it out just for yourself. If you smoke, go out for a smoke. If you love to watch Insta, Facebook, whatever, take your phone, just do that. If you would like to watch a movie, just do that. Just take that 1 hour for yourself. And then in that one particular hour, take 10 minutes to know who you actually are. And that's what I used to do. And there were so many hidden talents that I figured out, good, bad hidden talents, that, okay, what am I good at and what am I bad at? Because for me, in order to be self-aware, I always used to take out time for myself. And that's what I believe. So for you to be self-aware, for you to know yourself, for you to know your strengths and weaknesses, take that an hour for out of yourself. The second thing that you should also do is that you should start talking to people about it, because there are a lot of times when you wouldn't know yourself and externals might know you better, your family, your friends, your brother, friends, whoever, or office colleagues, whatever. So start talking to these people, because once you start talking to these, then they'll give you a lot of insight on who you are as a person, and that way you would. And if you start focusing on, for example, my ex-supervisor told me that, Bilal, you have really good observational skills. And then over the years, I figured out that, yeah, he's right. And I started just focusing on them, and it definitely had a change for me.
Great, perfect. My final question, Bilal, is what's that one thing you want to leave the audience with?
Um, for the audience, I would just say I don't think that there are a lot of things that I could leave the audience with. I think that all of you are super talented and all of you know what you have to do in life. But I would just say, it might sound super, right from the sky, but always focus on your passion. Never ever think what the world would say. Never ever think what the people next to you would say. Just have your passion jotted. Just focus on that. And trust me, you will go a long way. You'll be happy. That's the most important thing.
Great, thank you so much. And just like to cap it off, this question just sort of popped it out of my mind. We talked about Isaac and your journey, but I really, really want to dive deep down for myself and for all the Isaacers watching this. What would you say? Like, how can you make the most out of your Isaac journey? And then once you make it, what are the things, what are the outcomes of all that journey? What's the outcome of putting in all your effort into Isaac, and what will you get out of it?
Okay, so I think that as a younger generation, we give a lot to an organization like ISEC, but there are very few people who take things out of ISEC, except for friends. I would just give this piece of advice to all the ones that are a part of ISEC and who would want to continue. Go till the end, until and unless you're thrown out of the organization. So for me, I applied for MCB, I couldn't make it and all these things, but I made sure to go till the end, wherever my age ended, wherever I knew that now these people are going to throw me out 8 years, I just went to the maximum. And what it gave me out was success. I mean, after 6 years, I was the only Pakistani and, of course, an ISECer to be chosen at DHL Global Headquarters amongst 800 candidates. I won an international sales award for ISEC by International SOS. So, yeah, these kinds of things, they only happen because I gave in my end to ISEC. I learned, wherever I used to say, I used to be like, okay, make sure that you take out, when you have to take out from ISEC, learn as much as you could. Open your knowledge up, know your resources, and when you go and argue out there, you would know what you're saying, right? So for me, just put your maximum into ISEC, go till the end until they throw you out, and that would only give you success. That's what ISEC has given me.
Wow, this has been absolutely beautiful. But you had like 8 years. For most of us, we're about to graduate, right? We can't go on further. What do you think? You would, if you were at that point, would you choose your, going searching for a job, or would you stick to Isaac then? What would you do?
I chose to stick to ISEC because I started working for the national team. But I think that there's this term in ISEC, lifelong connection. So it definitely means that, ISEC never leaves you and you never leave ISEC. Even if you graduate from schools or universities, you always have other opportunities. You can always be an NST somewhere. You can go for a leadership, or you could just be a part of a sort of ISEC alumni. So I think that ISEC never leaves you. That's why we give you a lifelong connection.
Once an Isaacer, always an Isaacer. Thank you so
Always an
much,
ISEC.
Bilal. Thank you so much for your
You're
time
welcome,
spending here.
Asad.
You're an absolute inspiration. I've learned a lot from you behind the curtains, behind the shadows back then, and now interacting with you personally. It's an honor. Thank you so much. I wish you the best
Thank you
of
so
luck
much,
for your
Asad.
journey ahead.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, thank you. Good. Have a nice day, and Allah Hafiz.
Take care. Nice talking to you guys. Hafiz.